Hey there, today I'm going to talk about a couple of new spider foes as well as a character that really straddles that line between friend and foe for Peter. My name is Nate and welcome to the Gamers Guild. There is a lot to talk about, especially with 3 characters instead of just the usual 2. And I'm really excited about 2 of them personally, as I'm also just a really big fan of all things Spider. But before I get into the cards, I want to give a shout out to the guild sponsor, Tritex Games. Their pre-order prices take 20% off of retail, and then you can use the code TritexGGCP5 at checkout for an additional 5% off for a total of 25%, which is pretty good. As well, thanks to Tritex, I'm able to do a monthly giveaway. To enter, all you need to do is leave a comment down in the description of the video and be subscribed to the channel. So, if you know you're wanting some of these characters, 25% off is never a bad look. Now, with that said, I'm going to start with the Lizard and work my way up to my favorite of these 3 characters. And speaking of the Lizard, his alter ego is Kurt Connors. He has 6 stamina, moves medium on a 50mm base, is size 3 for 3 threat. His defense line is actually quite nice with a 4 physical defense and 3 energy and mystic defense. However, his offensive output on the other hand you may find a bit lacking. His tail whip has a range of 3, strength of 4 for 0 power. It will gain him power equal to the damage dealt, and on a wild, the attack gains a push that will shove the target character away short if it is size 3 or less. 4 dice builders that don't guarantee power are rough, but I'll talk more about that in a moment. Lizard's second attack is also physical and is called Cold-Blooded. Has a range of 2, strength of 7 for 3 power, which is an average rate for a 3-threat character. And additionally, if the attack deals damage, the target character will gain the bleed and slow condition. Anytime you are stacking multiple conditions onto an enemy character, you should feel pretty good about it. Slow isn't always relevant, but when it is, it's crippling, and bleed can force some tough choices onto your opponent. So I'm quite a fan of the Lizard's Spender here, and he does also have a few superpowers. His only active one is Biochemical Breakthrough. It costs 3 and allows Doc Connors to choose an enemy character or terrain feature of size 3 or less that is within range 2 and throw it short. A size 3 throw on a 3-threat character is something that will always be welcome. For his innate powers, the Lizard has a thick hide. It will let Lizard reduce incoming damage from enemy effects by 1 to a minimum of 1. And he also has the Healing Factor 1 and Wall Crawler keywords. And before we get into the pros and cons, it is worth mentioning that he drops down to 5 stamina on his injured side. Alright, I'm going to level with you all, real bluntly here. Lizard is an absolute monster of a tank at 3 threat. His overall kit is most similar to Drax, where they both have a size 3 throw superpower, both have a damage reduction superpower, they each have an attack that can displace an enemy character with the right result, and have spenders that hit really well. But where the Lizard has healing factor, Drax has 1 more die on his power building attack. This leads me to do something I've never done before and look at some dice math. With no modifications on either side, a 4 dice attack into a defense of 3 has these numbers. There's an 11% chance of doing 3 damage, a 20% chance of dealing 2 damage, a 25% chance of dealing 1 damage, and a staggering 38% chance of doing 0 damage with that 4 dice attack. A 5 dice attack going into 3 defense dice has a 16% chance of dealing 3 damage, a 22% chance of dealing 2 or 1 damage, and 27% chance of dealing 0 damage. And obviously those numbers become only more skewed going into higher defenses or characters with a defensive ability. So all of this to say, a 4 dice physical attack, taking into account defensive abilities and physical defenses being on average higher, is only going to be dealing damage 50% of the time. And that is going to leave Lizard as a pretty power-hungry character. Thankfully, there is some in-affiliation support to crank up that damage output between Goblin's leadership and something else we're going to be talking about soon with Kraven, but Lizard on his own isn't going to be cranking out power for himself. And so his kit is pretty straightforward. He has a touch of control with his size 3 push and a size 3 throw, but one relies on a bit of luck and the other relies on Connor's getting power. But this is all in one tanky body. So while the Lizard is affiliated with the Spider foes and there's some cool synergies with his kit and other team members and even some of their tactic cards, I actually really like the Lizard most with the Criminal Syndicate or the Inhumans. The Crime Syndicate is always looking for tanky characters that also have control effects, and the Lizard is all of that bundled up for just 3 threat. And the Inhumans are able to feed a bit of power into him, and with Lockjaw using his giant sniffer to put a hit out on a character, giving your team an extra die on attacks, and the Lizard can wait until later in the turn to activate anyway since he's so tanky, so it gives Lizard some really great play there as well. So all in all, Lizard on his own is a bit weak, but once he has a bit of help or support, he scales better than most other 3-threat characters with that aid. And as I mentioned earlier, Kraven has some tracking tech of his own to help out his animal buddy. Kraven the Hunter has the alter ego of Sergei Nikolaevich Kravenov. He has 5 stamina, moves medium, is size 2 and 3 threat. His defenses are 3s across the board for that very average 3-threat character build. His first attack is Kukri Strike. It has a range of 2, strength of 5 for 0 power. After the attack is resolved, Kraven will gain 1 guaranteed power, and the target will gain a guaranteed bleed condition as well. And if you manage to roll a wild, the attack gains elusive, which lets him advance short after the attack has been resolved. And this attack is really the first punch in a 1-2 combo. The second punch comes with his physical spear thrust. Has a range of 3, strength of 4 for 0 power. Kraven will gain power equal to the damage dealt, and if Kraven has already attacked the target character with his Kukri Strike, Spear Thrust rolls an extra 3 dice. Additionally, if Kraven has already advanced or been placed during his activation, he may advance medium. So Kraven really wants to be able to Kukri Strike, get the wild for elusive, and then Spear Thrust for 7 dice, and all of this will give him power for his superpowers as well. His first one is Corner the Beast. This active power costs 2 unless you choose an enemy character within range 3 of Kraven. Until the end of that enemy character's next activation, each time it advances or climbs, it suffers 1 damage. Additionally, if that character has the Wall Crawler superpower, it loses it until the end of its next activation. We haven't seen anything like this before, so I'm not sure just how impactful it's going to be in the game, but I have a feeling like the slow condition is one of those things that when it hurts a lot, and when it isn't effective, it won't be worth doing. His other active power is Expert Tracker. For 3, it allows Sergei to choose an enemy character, and then all of your allied characters roll 1 additional attack die when targeting the chosen character for the rest of the round. This is great as he can bolster his own attacks or help out his allies in affiliation who are begging for more dice like Doc Ock, Mysterio, and Lizard. Finally, Kraven's last power is an innate one called Elixir of Calypso, and will let Kraven reroll 1 die in his attack and defense rolls. So this consistency will both help his damage output as well as put his defenses above average for a 3-threat character. His card has no changes on his injured side, so the Kraven we see is the Kraven we get. And he has really interesting combination of abilities. Rerolls on offense and defense are spectacular. Even with them, he is quite a bit squishy though, but not in the glass cannon area. Since none of his attacks cost power, he is able to put it all towards damage output from his superpowers or any leadership abilities he may have access to. So he's able to play a support role, but really Kraven is just an excellent damage dealer, especially if he's able to do that 1-2 combo with his sword and spear. The fact that his attacks also grant him some mobility is even better. So the one thing he is lacking is control, but for everything else that his kit offers, it isn't really something to be held against him either. As for affiliations, he's already part of the Spider Foes and the Crime Syndicate. I don't really see too much play for him opening up in the Syndicate personally, but I do think he and Green Goblin will really get along, especially since he has some power to spare for that leadership. As far as other teams that Kraven might have some fun with, the Inhumans stand out again as Lockjaw can help get him into the right spot for his 1-2 combo, and Kraven can easily be one of the characters handing out power to his allies who need it. Or if he just needs 1 more power to activate Expert Tracker, he can borrow it real quick from a nearby buddy. There really aren't too many places that Kraven is going to feel bad as long as you are looking for a dedicated damage dealer. And that then leads me to the last of the characters I am talking about today, who is quite the opposite of Kraven because her prey is the objectives instead of the characters. Black Cat has the alter ego of Felicia Hardy. She has 5 stamina, moves long, is size 2 and 3 threat. Her defenses across the board are again 3s for that average and semi-fragile 3 threat character frame. Her first attack is a physical one called Cat Claws. It has a range of 2, strength of 4 for 0 power. It says after this attack is resolved, this character gains power equal to the damage dealt, and on a wild, the attack gains Pierce. So on the bright side, Black Cat isn't going to be as poorly consistent on building power when compared to the Lizard, as the Pierce will help push some damage through, but she still won't be doing much damage with this attack on average. Her second attack continues that trend. Troublemaker, also a physical attack, has a range of 3, strength of 6 for 2 power. However, this attack isn't here to deal damage because the first condition of this attack is that if the attack would deal more than 1 damage, it just deals 1 instead. But that's okay because that second line says that the target character gets a stagger special condition. No if a wild was rolled or if damage was done, just a straight up stagger. And if you roll a wild, the attack gains elusive, which lets her advance short. So her attacks aren't really damage dealers, and to little surprise, her superpowers follow that line of thought. Her first one is an active power that costs 2. Grappling Hook can only be used once per turn, but it does allow Black Cat to be placed within range 2 of her current position. So some extra mobility is never going to be bad, especially when you have enough power to use this alongside her next superpower, Master Cat Burglar. It is an active power that costs 3. It allows Black Cat to choose an enemy character that is within range 1 and take 1 asset or civilian token from that enemy character. And this power cannot let Black Cat hold more tokens than the crisis would specify. So if she is already holding a spider-infected civilian, she couldn't take on another one, but this can be used still an objective that you otherwise wouldn't be able to, like your opponent's Wakandan herb. So we have seen this ability on Enchantress, and for those who watched my A-Force game against Evan's Cabal, you might remember how potent this ability can be. But before I dig too deep into that, Black Cat has 2 innate powers. The first is Bad Luck. It says characters cannot modify their attack dice when targeting this a character with attacks, which is always handy to have, but not always going to be relevant. And finally, she has Stealth, which leaves her untargetable for attacks when she is outside of range 3. It is worth mentioning here at the end of her card that her injured side is the same as her front. So no special 9 lives tech to keep her around forever, which is probably quite fine because Black Cat already has a lot of cool tech and abilities built into her character card. And speaking of, let's talk about the most impressive stuff from her card. Her Troublemaker attack is the first thing that really stands out. Sure, it only does 1 damage, but that's actually a really good thing for some of the lists that might want to run her. And really the nice thing here is the lack of damage output also means a lack of power generation for your opponent. This attack also having a range 3 means that she can do this safely as well, which is great, and with 6 dice, the odds of a wild showing up for her elusive trigger are higher than not getting one. The ability to take an objective from an enemy is always going to be really strong, and a place effect for 2 power to help Cat either get in or out of range makes for an awesome overall kit. But with that said, everything I like about her costs power, and she is going to have a hard time getting it. A 4-die builder with Pierce is better than a 4-die builder without Pierce, but she still won't be gaining too much power over the course of your average round. I will say she is going to be very dangerous once she has become dazed, because then she will have all the power that she wants for a round or 2, and her running in, stealing an objective or 2, and then running away with another move action plus her grappling hook will make her extremely annoying to deal with once she has the power to work with. Now, as far as affiliations, she is on the roster for the Crime Syndicate, the A-Force, and the Web Warriors, and I think that she will work really well in all of these teams. Crime Syndicate is great on secures, but normally not great on the extraction objectives. Black Cat being an in-affiliation character that has the opposite playstyle will really help out the underworld. Likewise, the webheads are great at throwing or pushing the enemy team out of position. So having Miles and Felicia team up as extraction objective nabbers while the rest of the team can focus on getting enemy models out of position works quite nicely. Another neat synergy for Black Cat is her builder can actually net a decent bit of damage and power on the Web Warrior's all webbed up turn, as she is suddenly throwing out 6 dice with a Wild Pierce. As for other affiliations, I'm not really sure where else she may end up. The Cabal won't feed her much in the ways of power, so maybe the Inhumans if you're looking to get her power, but at this point I think the A-Force is just a better place to utilize her, especially since she's in affiliation there. Let me know down in the comments where you will be playing Black Cat or any of these new spider foes. And that is everything I have for today. Here at the end, I want to give an extra special thank you to all the members of the Guild Hall who are supporting what I am doing with the channel. There are always more and more things I am doing and wanting to do, and because of this extra support, I'm getting to do some of those things. If you are interested in supporting the channel, check out the links down in the description for the Guild's Patreon page and Tritex Games page, where you can use that discount code to let them know I sent you their way. Thank you all for watching, and until next time, keep on gaming.